good. Got to keep her happy too.
I am so proud for you, Tyson. That is just warms my soul that that's happened with you, and you also are now going to after this call, you're going to go out and go to an interview, and you were so good with your DoorDash that the guy's going to say, "Hey, I want you to be my delivery batter." So, kudos to you, Tyson, for doing that.
Good for you, Tyson.
Yeah, honestly, like everything right now is just set in the motion. All I gotta do is just go down the road.
Okay, sounds good.
Nice. So we are now live here on Restream. So thank you so much for everyone for getting on for our meet and greet session of Conversation for Humanity. And just want to let you guys know, we are one of 3 open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace, humanity in the workplace in a very constructive and positive way. We want to know what the issues are that you're facing, that is out there for people facing because it's our goal to work with both employees and employers to bring humanity into the workforce. And of course, we're always going to be going live on Tuesdays with Sharon Carey with Sandy Chernoff, Wednesdays here for Conversations for Humanity, and then Thursdays for Humanity Happy Hour hosted by Carla. And that's all going to be done at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And feel free when you jump on, comment in the comment section, either on YouTube, because this is actually being streamed on YouTube today, or on LinkedIn in the post that was posted today on the post. So we would love to hear from you, where you're from. Let us know where you're jumping on. If you have any questions or concerns, we would love to hear that. And if you're watching this on the replay, please sure to comment and hashtag the replay. And if you want to reach out to either me, Sandy, or Carla, please, we would love to have that great and engaging conversation with you. So shortly, Brian will be coming on, and Brian's going to be discussing his topic of the day today about how do you lead? Do you really lead, or do you think leading is just an idea? So Brian will be touching base on that today. So Brian's just a great wealth of knowledge, and there's the soon-to-be wife. Hello there. How you doing?
Hiding. Instead of me just talking about her, this is my fiance Brooke.
Hey,
Brooke.
Carla and Sandy.
Nice to see you.
Well, now you guys
wake up. Yes, and we got to have you on more of these calls, Brooke. We would love to hear from you. How do you view humanity in the workplace today for you?
I don't know.
She's still waking up, so it's probably not a good time to have her jump in.
What she had
on the spot. I'm like, hey, come here. I want you to join in.
She's like, I'm going to kill you later.
The coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, gotta have that coffee. Yeah. So,
Chris, I have to talk to you about the pictures of my daughter's dog, because I got into a lot of trouble last night. I'll tell you about it. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, what she's doing is she's actually selling the pictures of the dog and like using her like a model. And for example, yeah, and she has a little device that she uses, like it's like what we used to put our kids in when we walked around when they were small. She's got one of those for the dog, and the woman who made it, Lisa, took a picture of Apple in there and sent it to her, and she's using it on her advertising. So she paid Elisa for the picture. So she got mad at me because I didn't ask her if I could send you the picture so that we could use them, for this program. And so she got mad at me. So I told her that I'd have to talk to you and see if you would compensate her a bit for, for a picture. So we'll have to figure that out. The dog
That
is
will be another discussion. Yes.
so,
To be named the official dog of Bringing Humanity Together, I think it might be worth it.
well,
Well,
you know,
hey,
she's so cute, you know, with her little paws crossed over, and she actually
know.
poses. She poses, and that's why it's so funny.
well,
Yeah,
if you need a symbol, I got a perfect symbol right here.
That's funny, Tyson.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Captain America is one of the biggest titles out there, so.
Well, she's trying to make a little money. You know, the dog cost her thousands of dollars, so she's trying now to make some of the money back. And the dog is very cute and poses. I mean, she literally poses for her. It's quite funny. You know, Lisa gets her camera out, and the dog sits in a pose, just like she knows what to do. Lisa figures she's part human.
Probably.
Well, she's already there. She's part of the family.
Yeah, well, she's very cute, and she's very frisky. She jumped up on my daughter's bed the other day. She's this big, Tyson. Honestly, you can hold her in your hand. She's tiny, tiny dog.
That's quite a jump for her.
It is quite a jump, but she's very frisky, and she's very active, and she's very funny. She likes human food. You know what she likes to eat? She likes to eat salmon and mango and pineapple and bananas. I mean, my son thinks it's hysterical that my daughter's feeding her human food. But doesn't she eat dog food? I said, yeah, she eats dog food too, but she likes human food.
Oh yeah, Cosmo does too. He goes and sits by the kitchen sink like treat time, treat time. And I'm like, no, you got food in your bowl. And he looks at me like, well, come on, I want some food. No, you have food in your bowl. Okay.
With the dogs over at my mom's house, I got 2 pit bulls and a Jack Russell Terrier. Anytime they hear a cheese wrapper for a string cheese, they come running into the kitchen like
From a dead sleep.
dude, no.
Yeah.
Especially with the pit bull, any type of cheese will make them gassy, and it's bad. Because you give those dogs cheese, they will literally just run around the house in it, and it just makes the whole house smell like what crawled in the walls and died.
Well, my son also got a dog, which we just saw on Sunday. It's because his wife had one when he was a kid. And so she decided that, you know, her boys would enjoy a dog, so they got a dog. It's a part shiatsu and part something else. Cute little dog. So anyway, so I said to my son, so who do you think is going to be taking care of this dog? It's not going to be the boys. He says, I know, it's going to be me.
I know. Yeah, that happened to me when my kids were younger. Somebody thought I needed a dog, and they gave me an Australian Border Collie, and he'd get out from his leash, and he'd literally run laps around the house.
Oh my God.
And I ended up taking care of the dog.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my daughter got the dog because she lives alone, and this way, you know, she's got company now.
Yeah.
But, for my son, it was just something, you know, to entertain the boys. Because
when I had the dog, I mean, I liked the dog, but I was the one taking care of the dog, and I hated the fact that he had to be crated all day. You know.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not right for him. So we ended up giving him away to somebody that was home all the time, and he lived like a king. You know. So, and I noticed when I started staying home with my beagle a year and a half ago, it made a huge difference in his disposition to have somebody at home all day.
Yeah.
I went out to trim some bushes this afternoon along the side of the house, and I'm out there for like 15 minutes. I could hear my dog at the front door going, "Ow, ow," like, "Where are you?" And I came back in, and it was like I had been gone for days, you know.
Well, my daughter has has some kind of app on her phone, and I guess there's some kind of, I don't know exactly how she does this, but she can, when she's not home, she can watch the dog.
There's a camera app. Yeah. My daughter had one.
Yeah, so she's got
my daughter takes her beagle to work.
Oh, well, see, not yesterday, but the day before, Elisa walked over here. And I actually thought she was going to bring Apple with her because she's got that little carrying thing, but no, she left her at home. And but she showed me on her phone that she was watching what she was doing. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, you can do that.
When she gets when she sees people that she knows, like she knows me now, and she knows my sister-in-law, and she knows Yale, and she yaps and she jumps up and down. She gets very excited when she comes over here and sees us because she wants to play.
Yeah.
The other thing she does at home that's very funny is if there's something going on outside, she'll sit by the window and watch. It's like she watches what goes on. It's really funny.
Yeah.
So she must be part human.
Part human. Yeah.
Tyson, do you have any pets?
I don't at the moment, but I plan to after I finish paying off this trailer.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm gonna be we're either getting a wolf dog or a pit bull.
Or what?
A pit bull.
Oh, okay.
She wants a wolf dog. I want a pit bull.
Well, we know who's going to win that one.
Brooke.
Just say yes, Tyson. Just say yes.
Well, we can have 2 dogs, so we're just gonna get both.
Oh, okay. Well,
There you go.
Happy
I hope you have a big home for 2 dogs.
You have to remember this. Happy wife, happy life.
There you go.
There you go.
I know.
There you go.
And she's sitting in the back. She's sitting in the room, just looking at me, listening to all this. So.
Okay, fair enough.
So Carla, in a couple of minutes, we probably need to let everybody know the kind of things that me and you talked about today.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we were having a conversation that a couple of things we wanted to stick on topic as much as we could. And we wanted nothing like putting me on the spot, Chris. I love you dearly, but thank you. And also sticking to the topic at hand, trying not to bring up things that are polarizing and divisive. I know that we all have our own thoughts and feelings about whether it be politics, religion, COVID, whatever, mask, no mask, whatever. Just kind of keep those to yourself. If you find that you want to have a conversation with somebody off this conversation, then fine. But we really want to try and stick to the topic at hand and be respectful and talk about the greater good in the world.
Hi, Melinda.
Hi, how are you, Sandy?
Hey, Melinda. How are you today?
Hello, Melinda.
Chris, how are you? You hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you
Okay,
fine.
good.
You're not having any computer issues today.
No, I'm not. I just didn't bother with the headsets anymore. I didn't know that
There
really
you go.
messes up everything.
Headsets can be a pain sometimes.
Technology, don't you love it? Then there's Brian.
Brian Sumner, how you doing today,
Hi, Brian,
sir?
how are you?
So, Brian, you ready to lead us off today, sir?
You're muted, Brian. You have to.
Yeah, hear you. Your mic's not working.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we can hear you now.
Just on another call. I'll be off in a few minutes. So I'll be right with you guys.
Okay, no problem.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All righty. So what Brian will be talking about today, in fact, let me pull it up and I'll put it in the chat. It's something that really was near and dear to my heart. And what he posed to us was something really, really well. So let me bring it up here in just a couple of seconds. I gotta find it because it's in another place. So here we go. Is it there? No, it's up there. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of topics that we can talk to. Okay, here we go. Do people really want to lead or just like the idea of leading? That's what we'll be talking about today when Brian comes back on. And like I said, once I heard that from Brian, I was like, man, we definitely need to be talking about today.
Read that one more time.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Topic of today. All right. Here we go. And so, like I said, do people really want to lead or just like the idea of leading? That's today's topic, and Brian will be with us shortly. Well, for me, I truly do want to lead. To me, an idea is just that. It's just an idea. But if the idea doesn't turn into action, then it's just like anything else. It's just words, or it's just an idea. Because by leading people, I truly believe it's not about you, it's about them. So here's Brian. Take us away, Brian, sir.
Sorry about that. I was on another call with a new product. We're in the process of working with a company that combats traumatic brain injury.
Oh, nice. Brian,
it's been on for an hour and a half, so it's been a long conversation.
Yes. So, Brian, do people really want to lead, or they just like the idea of leading?
So, it's interesting. I was having this conversation with Graham the other day, and we were just kind of going back and forth with one of our many topics that we discuss.
Yes, I see that.
And it kind of occurred to me, and I've thought about this from not just a personal standpoint of being in business or doing anything for that matter, whether it be, working out, getting in shape and so forth. And I think there might be something to this. There's a whole bunch of information being bandied about leadership in the world, in business, of what leaders should or shouldn't do, and what we think people ought to be doing versus what we don't like what they're doing and so forth. And I was wondering, do we really want to be in a leadership role? We're very quick to critique and judge and say that X, Y, and Z leader isn't very good, or they're the responsible party for our downfall. And I was wondering, being in a leadership role isn't very easy. Being in a management role isn't easy. And I don't think we take the time to recognize the difficult situations that those individuals may or may not be in based on having to make decisions that potentially aren't very popular for everybody. Maybe they're dealing with a situation that they've never been in before. And I was wondering, and I wanted to get everyone's kind of feedback on it, that I think there's an aspect of, we like the idea of doing something. It sounds really neat to be a leader. It sounds really great to be a Hollywood star or a celebrity or a professional athlete. But I don't think we get the whole picture of what it means to be that individual, right? I mean, it sounds great to be, the starting third baseman of the San Francisco Giants, but you really recognize the amount of work and effort that goes into being that. We see someone like Tiger Woods or LeBron James or any other athlete. Oh, they have a great life. Well, if you want to stay home and not allowed to go to a restaurant, and you want to be working all the time and playing games and getting in shape, that's great. I mean, there's an aspect of to be the best at certain things. There's an aspect of being selfish. You look at anyone from Oprah to Bono. You only see the wonderful things of them being on TV. You never see the rehearsals. You never see the travel. You never see the weight prevention that they have to go into, the time it takes to take care of their body, to do everything, to stay focused. I mean, it sounds easier than it is. And I think leadership is seen kind of in the same way that we look at it as, hey, I have a title. But having a title is nice, but being that and doing it is completely different. And I get the sense that most people aren't ready to make tough decisions, because once they get confronted with that, it's, hey, don't look here, go that way. Because in many ways, being a leader is, you're unpopular. It's certainly not a popularity contest. I mean, if you look at presidents in this country of past elections, current elections, and so forth, I mean, half the people that you are technically the leader of don't like you, and in some ways are passionately against you. Go around the world. I mean, that's certainly not a requisite of being liked. And I wonder how many people really want to take that on for themselves. It sounds great, but I don't know. I was just curious of what other people thought, because I have my own ideas, but wanted to hear from everyone first.
Well, I know in the field of nursing, I talk to a lot of people that they say, oh, I want to get my master's, I want to get my doctorate, I want to go into leadership. And then they find out that they really don't like it because they miss patient care. And they don't like the idea of making hard decisions. And they don't like to be the one that has to be responsible. Usually they're the ones that complain the most, that think that they can do better as a leader. And then when they get in the position, they don't want it. It's not easy. It takes a special person, I believe, to say, I don't want to go into management.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to play that game.
Hey, we're so addicted to wanting to be liked by everybody. I wonder if that's even something that, takes a special person to be comfortable not being liked.
Well, even as a nurse practitioner myself, going up, just from, we're all nurses, but going from a level of a nurse to being able to do other things as a nurse practitioner, it took me farther and farther away, and I wasn't even in management. It took me farther and farther away from the people that brought me into nursing as taking care of people. And it took me away from that. It became, I was a person that was doing a particular procedure. Hi, how are you? This is what we're going to do the procedure, check in on them and on to the next one. And I hated it. And even though the money was a little bit better, it wasn't worth it. Because I wasn't doing what I was doing. The passion wasn't there.
Yeah. What do you all think? What are the rest of the group that we have? Who'd like to inject next?
My fiance would actually say something about it.
Go ahead, Tyson.
I was just listening and just hearing what, and got me thinking. For people who have that leadership quality, it doesn't take a normal person, say any of us, to get that high level of respect. It takes so much work to do to get to that, but it takes hard work and actual patience and everything. There's not a lot of people who have that quality. So, say the celebrities and anybody who has higher praise and all, it took them a long time to get to where they were.
So, Brooke, what field of industry did you work in?
I didn't actually.
She's 2 years younger than me, and she hasn't really worked as much as I have. She's worked a little bit with me in warehouse at Chewy. But before that, she hasn't really done anything. But she is into art quite a bit.
Okay. So what do you think about that, Brian? Sandy, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's hard to be a good leader. I think that it's a difficult position. You do have to have patience. You do have to get to know the people that you are supposedly leading so that you can lead them appropriately, because everybody's different. So, in order to know which buttons to press, to get them to do things and to help them to fulfill their potential. And you have to be able to figure a lot of those things out. And a lot of people don't have the patience or the skill set to be able to do that. So they don't necessarily end up being good leaders. And there are some people who are good leaders, but I think by and large, they are very few and far between, and many are not. And you see, organizations suffer because the person who is supposed to be the leader of the organization is not doing a good job. And particularly if it's a not-for-profit, volunteers don't get paid. So it's very different than the business world. And if you're not nice to the volunteers, you won't have any. So, that's a really difficult job. It's a little bit different in the business world, but still, if people don't feel comfortable under your leadership, they'll probably look for another job. So that's not good for the business either. So, you have to really pay attention to your people, and you have to figure out what they need and how to provide it and how to help them be the best they can be so that they know that you've got their back. And you also need to thank them when they contribute something so that you show that you value their contributions. And when people feel valued and appreciated, well, then they're going to continue doing that sort of thing. If they do things and they, come in early and stay late and they never get acknowledged for it, they'll quit doing it. So, it's a matter of what are they doing? And again, I think a lot of people get put into managerial or leadership positions without appropriate training. So they don't really know what they're supposed to do or how to do it. And that doesn't help. It doesn't help them, and it doesn't help the organization that they're supposed to be leading. So, when people throw you into that position, they set you up to fail, which isn't fair to anybody. It's not fair to the organization. It's certainly not fair to the person. But in a lot of situations, that's what happens. And it's sad. And just because somebody's good at their job doesn't mean that they're going to be a good leader. And sometimes they get put into those positions because somebody thought, no, they're really good at this, whatever. I mean, that's certainly what I found in the tech industry. Just because somebody's a good techie doesn't mean that they're going to be a good leader, because most of them don't know how to communicate, which is the cornerstone of being a good leader. And if you can't communicate very effectively, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And many of them, they're smart and they're very capable, but they're not really good people. And you have to be a good people person to be a good leader. So, that's one of the things that has to be taught to somebody who's going into a leadership role. And I told you I got into what I'm doing because I was trained by a large international women's organization to be a leadership motivational trainer. And they trained us. I mean, we went and took a course. We were in Toronto for a week, learning from a professional facilitator how to teach leadership. And then we used to go into the communities and we talked to the leadership of the community to find out what they were trying to do so that we could provide them with appropriate courses so that their people could feel confident to take on higher roles of responsibility within the organization. Because not-for-profits that don't build leadership and they can't afford to hire professional facilitators on a regular basis, they die because they burn out their leaders, because people don't want to be in that position forever because it's exhausting and it's hard. And especially with volunteers. It's one thing if you're earning, $250,000 a year as, head of some organization, but as a volunteer, you don't make any money. So, unless you're getting some really good feedback feeling wise and so on and so forth, why would you stay there? So it's not easy. But, in the business world, it's the same thing. I mean, just because someone has a good idea for a business doesn't mean they're going to be a good boss. So, that's why a lot of small businesses fail, because the person just didn't know how to put it together, didn't know how to hire people or handle people or anything like that. And, I just work by myself, so I don't need to worry about any of that. But I do collaborate with other people who do the same thing that I do, and sometimes we'll do something together because they have a little more expertise in an area that one of my clients wants. And so I'll bring them in to handle that aspect of it. And, it just sort of depends. But yeah, it's not easy. It's really not easy. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do well. And it's probably why a lot of them aren't liked, Brian, because they're not doing a good job. And people generally are critical of those above them. It's just human nature. Things aren't going your way, so, you point up there. Yeah, it's their fault. They should have done this or they should have done that. And also leaders need to, they're human too. They make mistakes. They got to own it. They got to be accountable. They make a mistake. They got to say, not point fingers and blame somebody else. Say, you know what? That was my mistake. And here's what I'm going to do to fix it. And that way they're setting an example of what you do when you make a mistake, because human beings are very imperfect creatures and mistakes are made all the time. But mistakes are opportunities to learn. And if they're handled in that way, in a supportive and encouraging way, and if the employee knows that the manager or the boss has their back when something goes wrong and they can go to them and discuss it with them, then they will. Because otherwise, the next time they make a mistake, if there was finger pointing and blaming and yelling going on, they'll cover it up. And that can make things worse. We don't want to cover up mistakes. We want to fix them. And we don't want them to occur again. So it's a matter of how do you deal with it? And that's another thing that a leader or a manager needs to know what to do. They need to know how to deal with their people when there's a screw up. People know when they screw up. But if they don't feel comfortable coming to somebody for help, then we have a big problem. So, there's a lot of managers who finger point and blame and yell at people when they make mistakes. All that happens is they make them more upset. They're going to make more mistakes. Not a good approach. Because then everybody's walking around on eggshells and everybody's wondering when they're going to get yelled at next. It's not a good way to run things. So you have to handle it supportive, in a way where, so looks like we have a little problem here, Chris. What do you think went wrong? Okay, so how do you think you can fix that? Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Anything else? Okay, well, listen, before you go off to fix it, the next time that situation comes up, what else do you think you can do so that we don't end up with the situation we're facing right now? Okay, well, that's good. Well, listen, you go ahead and fix it. And if you run into any snags or any problems, you just come back to me and I'll help you. Don't worry, okay? If you're having trouble with it, you just come back and I'll help you. So if a manager handles it that way, then the employee knows that you've got their back. And if they have a problem, they'll come back to you because you helped them. You supported them. You encouraged them. And, again, get them to think for themselves in terms of problem solving. Have them suggest what they think they should do. If you think there's something else, there's no reason why you can't mention it. But by and large, let them come up with how to fix things. And you encourage them. Yeah, that's a good idea. Great. Go ahead. Perfect. And that way they'll feel comfortable. And it's just, you set the tone. So it's a matter of what kind of tone are you setting?
Chris, what do you think of people who say they want to be in leadership or management positions, and do they like the idea of it, or is it really something they want?
Well, I was kind of alluding to it while I was waiting for you to get on. I personally would love to lead people because I believe that's what I was called to do. But when it comes to the context of people actually leading, I think there's that dichotomy of it's just like when you're a movie star. Oh, you get in all the glitz and glamour and you get to be put on show and that kind of thing. And that's who you are. But they don't see the other side of that dynamic. It is really hard to do what you do and how you do it because there's two facades you basically are putting on. There's the actual leadership facade that people see thinking, oh, he's a great leader or she's a great leader. And we don't see all the other stuff that's going behind the scenes. So the behind the scenes reality of it is a totally different dynamic because they have to make hard choices, not decisions. Decisions are based in the past. I learned that from you so well, Brian, that when we make those great choices, not only from a leadership point of view, but also from that human point of view that will affect everybody in the organization, then that's how you really truly lead, because you're not thinking of yourself, you're thinking of everybody else. And then there are some people who like to think that the idea of leading is a good thing for them, but then it comes to that point of, it's like what Carla was saying, then some people just don't want to do it because they don't want to end up having that responsibility. They don't want to take on that responsibility. And that's the way I view it.
Yeah, I think there's something to it. I mean, there's something like 90% of the American workforce are very comfortable working for other people. And it's only something like 10% that actually want to go do something entrepreneurial. And we say we like to do this and we want to be our own boss and so forth. But I make a distinction. I think there's a lot of people who have entrepreneurial thinking or tendencies, but that doesn't make them an entrepreneur. Just as there are certain people who have ideas and notions of how to lead and what to lead, but doing it is different. You know, Melinda, you know, obviously probably coming out of the military, leading in the military is different than leading in civilian life. But not everybody's cut out to being able to lead people in situations. So what do you think about that aspect of it in terms of whether it be the military or otherwise?
Well, having a role like in the military, you have to have that leadership quality component in you, your characteristic qualities, whatever you want to call, and you have to have some type of thinking skills that you're independent, because you have to make decisions on your own when you're on a battlefield or whatever, who you're leading. So in the military, it's a whole different ballgame. You know, if you're in a building and they put you on watch and that's all you're going to do, you have to watch that building, who, what, where, and how, what happened at different times has to be accounted for, and you're responsible for that. So leadership in the military and places like that are very high, even though you might be very young, you know. But leaders, a lot of times, leaders in the workforce, we talk a little bit about work, a lot of people say they want to lead. I want to lead, and I don't want to work for somebody 9 to 5 anymore. I don't want to work 10 to 6 like you just explained, or 8 to 4. I want to work for myself. Yeah, oh, great, wonderful. You have these ideas and thoughts, and you know, show me the ropes and tell me what I need to do to get there. I'll be my own business owner tomorrow. But to facilitate that change, a lot of people don't have that. They can talk the talk, but can they do the walk? Like a doctor goes to school and practices and becomes a doctor, an MD. It's the same thing. So sometimes they're minusing those abilities to actually demonstrate that skill, and that's a problem. If you can't do that, and it's a high position where you have to manage, they're calling manage, not just work with a few little people and just tell them hi and bye and you're gone. No, you have to really do some serious things, make decisions on your own when you're with this group. That's more of management, and you're on a leader, head, or whatever title you want to call it. That's where you are. And that it takes that type of persona that can deal with the people, who are personable and flexible as well, because things do change. I've learned that people say, oh, I've been here 35 years. Nothing's going to change. I'm in the same chapter for 52 years. Nothing's going to change. And just about when they're making those wonderful thoughts and ideas and creative things out in the universe, things do change. And they're like, wow, I've been here. But that's how management works. It does change. It might take long, but it will change. So a lot of these things that we have to do as an individual that are, you know, trying to change lives and impact lives, I think I would be a leader. A leader is what I would like to be, to say, and have an impact on these people's lives. It could be anyone. It's just, if I help you and I help you to get to point B, and then point B is I gave you Carla's phone number. And Carla is a psychologist, and she did your, meeting on the phone, and everything went well. And then Carla said, now I know you need to see this person. Now it's on there. It's going up. It's moving because you went to the right channels from me to Carla to the next person. And there's a lot of organization in our minds, and different things to get that stuff moving.
I think what you just said there at the very end with organization, as we were speaking, I think that's a component that gets overlooked in management and leadership. That so many people in the workplace, and I remember being in a university setting where students, they were very conditioned in waiting to be told what to do and how to do it. And at the same time, they say they want to make their own decisions or choices and lead themselves. But actually putting together a schedule, staying committed to that schedule, working for a period of time, getting things done in a timely manner isn't always easy for people who have a different semblance of time. Not everybody's organized that way. Not everybody works that way. We talk about working, whether it be 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever the time is. I mean, all I know is I work from 12 to 12 now. I mean, it's every day. There might be something. I mean, I'm in an episodic business to begin with, but some days I'm swamped doing stuff, and I might have a client who calls and is free on a Saturday or Sunday, and they call, and I can't just say, hey, no, I'm not going to talk to you today because it's Sunday. It doesn't work that way all the time. So I think there's an aspect of, again, gets kind of missed of what really are we doing, in terms of tasks and functions and so forth. I think a lot of times people look at leadership of, hey, I get to make the decisions and call the shots. Okay, well, what happens when you have to call the shots and you get people upset? Chris?
This is something that I've said to you many times and everyone else at one time or another. There's a big distinction, though, that we also need to address as well. Do we want to be working for others, or do we want to be working with others? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the personality, Chris. There are some people that don't like to be in charge of anything, and they would rather be told what they have to do and how they have to do it. And then there are people who like to be in charge and like to tell other people what to do and how to do it. So, it partially depends on the personality type that you're dealing with. And, if you're dealing with a supporter type personality, they don't like being in charge. They just want to make sure everybody's happy. So please tell them what to do and how to do it. And they will do exactly what you tell them, because then they know that you're going to be happy, and so are the other people that they're doing these things for. They don't like to be in charge. But there are people who enjoy being in charge. And a lot of them are very organized, because if you're actually going to be successful in being in charge, you need to be organized. And, some people are just, again, like Brian just said, some people are better at that than others. But if you're used to having people tell you what to do and how to do it, then, getting organized is going to be more difficult for you, because you've never had to do it from square one. So, again, it just sort of depends what you've learned and how you've learned it, and so on and so forth. I mean, one of the things that I did with my kids, for example, I wanted them to be independent. I wanted them to be able to take care of themselves. So one of the things we did, and my sister couldn't believe this, for first year university, my kids went away, and they went to Ontario, which is on the other side of the continent. And, mommy and daddy are not there. So, if they have a problem, they got to figure it out for themselves. Sometimes they would phone, but most of the time they had to figure out what to do. And they did. And I had the same experience. I went away to university also. And it's just a matter of, this is an opportunity for people to start problem solving on their own, fixing things, figuring out how to do things, because it's very important. If you're going to be an independent person and be able to take care of yourself, then you need to know how to deal with things. And if you never learn how to do that because you have helicopter parents, well, good luck. you know, and there's a lot of those out there today where they don't let their kids make any decisions. They make every decision for them and they take care of everything. These kids don't know how to do a bloody thing because mommy and daddy take care of everything. Oh, I'm sorry, not a good idea. When they're really little, yes, you have to take care of things. But as they get older, they can start learning how to take care of things for themselves. They will make mistakes, but that's how they learn. I mean, again, those are opportunities to learn. Let them make mistakes. It's okay as long as they don't get hurt. But it's just a matter of what are you doing? And as a parent, you need to help your kids be independent. And so they have to learn how to problem solve and how to take care of themselves, how to do different things. I mean, you know, both my kids had to set up households, you know, far away from home. Well, you know, that's life. That's how it is. What's wrong with that? I don't think it's such a bad thing to have to do that. And, you know, my son and daughter are both very organized people and they get a lot of things done and good for them, you know, and we're proud of what they do and we're happy that we help them to be able to do that because I think it's very important. Otherwise, they rely on you for the rest of your life. Well, you know, how much fun can that be? You know, they've got a life, let them have it. And it's the same thing with employees. You know, maybe at the beginning they need to have a very clear job description and an understanding of what we expect of them. But after that, let them run with the ball. If they figure out a better way to do it, who cares? As long as we get the results we want, why do we care how they get from A to B? Why would you care? It doesn't have to be done the way I would do it. Do it the way you want to do it. Why not? I mean, I don't see the point of it has to be the way I did it. Why? You know, maybe they'll figure out a better way. And sometimes they do. Well, good for them.
Yeah, it's like the difference between traditional math and new math. Who cares how you do it as long as you come up with the same answer?
Exactly. Who cares? So, you know, people that micromanage, I mean, they're just a pain in the ass. Basically, you know, when somebody's micromanaging you, I can't stand it. I always turn to people and go, so why don't you bloody well do it yourself? I mean, it's just so annoying when people micromanage you. As a volunteer, I worked under a woman on a project, and she would phone me every day. Have you done this? Have you done that? Finally, I said, Sylvia, do you not trust that I'm going to get this done? Because if you don't, do it yourself. Because I'm tired of your phone calls, and I find them very insulting. It's like I don't know how to do this. So leave me alone. It's going to get done. If you keep phoning me, you do it. I mean, you know, like, why would you do that to someone? So, you know, and it's the same thing in work. I mean, it was bad enough as a volunteer, but it's the same thing in the office. Why would you do that to someone? It just doesn't make any sense, and you don't endear yourself, and all you do is annoy them. And in the end, if you continue to do that, they'll probably leave because it's just not fun to be working under somebody who's checking up on you every 3 seconds. I mean, it's just, you know, it's horrible.
It's one of the reasons why I left warehouse.
Pardon?
One of the reasons why I left warehouse jobs.
There you go. There you go, guys.
So let me ask you this, House, and I'll pose this to everybody. I know you had to do a couple of things. Do you see a big distinction between working for somebody versus working with somebody? What's your thoughts on that, Tyson?
Well, there's a huge difference between working for someone and working with someone. It's the same thing with the people who are born to lead and born to be led. It's the same difference there. That's at least how I see it personally. With the people who are born to lead, they will be right there by your side, helping you through it instead of just sitting at the top of the throne, telling you how things are done. Like, there was a picture that I saw a couple years ago. It was basically the difference between a boss and a leader. It was the employees pulling a throne with the boss telling them to go. Leader, the boss was in front, helping the team pull basically the company along. If I find it, I'll post it in the chat. but that has been one of my favorite quotes and pictures that I found for this topic. But I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff where it's a lot of workplaces are micromanaged, and because it's micromanaged, there's not a lot of work being done, and it requires the managers and leaders and all that to micromanage more. So, and you can just see the cycle from there, just going downhill.
So this comes up with another question, Brian, for you. Should we be managed or should we be led?
Well, there's two sides of it, obviously. You know, there's an aspect of needing to manage some other people. People prefer to be managed in many ways. I remember being in an organization, and it was semi micromanaged. It was very top down oriented from decisions and mandates and so forth. And it was interesting because the people who were being managed always complained that the people below them didn't do their work and didn't listen to them, yet whenever they were asked to do something, they were late with their work. So, you know, I think people need to be managed at a certain level. I mean, again, a business is there to sell products and services, work efficiently, get things out in a timely manner, whatever the business is structured as. And there's something to be said for that if you don't do your job, I mean, at some level, somebody probably should replace you to do that job, or come around and show you how to do it and tell you to do their job. I mean, that's ultimately what your job is. So there needs to be a management component to it, Chris. I think people prefer that in many ways. Give me a task and I'll go do it. I don't consider everybody creative, or at least believing that they're creative. So not everybody fits that mold of I just want to be led to a direction and show me where to go and I'll follow. It depends. I mean, there's no one size fits all approach to it. I fervently believe that virtually every management and leadership theory that's put out there is shiitake, and needs to go away, because that's not ultimately, the source of the greatness. But leadership is interesting from a component that it could simply just be a conversation. Coming back to what you said about being for and being with, working for or working with, I think it's the same kind of thing. I mean, you can create it any way that you want. I mean, call it what you want. If you're working for someone or working with them, I don't think there's a huge distinction there. From a structure standpoint, I think it's more a distinction of how you contextualize it. But look, there's some companies that are far more hierarchical than others. Some are very flat. Some people like to make their own schedule and do what they want. But at the same time, I used to have this conversation. It was always kind of a funny thing in the university. Our vice president of academic affairs at some time was kind of like, well, we're more interested in students getting the learning outcome, whether that takes them 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. It doesn't matter. They should be allowed to get the learning outcome. So in effect, allowing them to turn in work later than a specific due date. The learning outcome was more important than when they got it. And I was always kind of coming out of business, and I find that noble, and I get that. But last I checked, Delta has a pretty strict policy to make sure that their pilots show up on time for an 8 a.m. flight. Like last I checked, it's like, hey, I'm not going to go fly today. I haven't learned how to fly. I'm going to fly tomorrow. It's like it doesn't always work. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm a doctor. I don't feel like being, seeing my patients today. There's an aspect of being accountable.
Yes.
So it becomes a philosophical question, Chris, of what do you want for yourself? And is the business or your job structured that way? You know, and I like I said, I see a lot of people say, I'd love to make my own schedule and work from home and do everything. Be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Because it's not always greener on the other side. Like I've noticed that people are far more productive when they're in an office than when they're not in an office.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in terms of it's a lot easier to reach someone because they're in an office. Now that they're everywhere, whether it be on a cell phone or email or, you know, out with a walk or doing whatever at their house, it's very easy to say decline, respond later. Like you're not in a position where you're held accountable by others to say, no, you have to get your job done today. It's very easy for me to you know, oh, who's calling? I'll call them back later. And, you know, go off and do something else and you forget to call them back. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Carla, your thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking about what Brian was saying because that was part of my topic for tomorrow. But I think of working for someone is like, okay, tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. It's very task oriented. Where when you're working with someone, you're working alongside them to complete a project, get tasks done, but you're also taking the initiative to learn as you go, and you're active with the person that you're with, not just going off and doing it because you were told to do it. And I think that a lot of people, when they have that mentality that they want to work with somebody to get a task done or work with them to complete a project that's going to enhance the organization, they're more open to wanting to learn new things as well. And not just task oriented, well, I'm only supposed to do this and that's all I'm going to do. I think that they have more of a level of participation.
So let me ask you this, Carla.
Mm-hmm.
Could that also be part of the hero's journey?
It could be a part of the hero's journey because the person that is leading and, you know, bringing people in, hey, work with me on this project, they may be bringing out characteristics in people that they see, you know, things that they see in that person to give them confidence that they are able to complete it as well and to have someone to, you know, do it along with them and boost their self-confidence and show them that there are things that they could do that they've never considered that they were capable of doing before. And then that way they can be a hero of their own journey.
And we can also be that guide with them all along that same journey.
Mm-hmm. There's plenty of people that have told me that they've seen things in me that I never saw in myself. But having that person along with me to help me learn new things and figure them out has helped me grow as a person. As whereas a year and a half ago, I didn't see myself in that situation.
Melinda, what's your thoughts?
Well, the whole, you know, whether I lead or I'm working with them, I would like to be able to lead and have some of what I'm leading, teaching, and instructing be an impact on these people in this organization, wherever I am using my mind and, you know, doing the skills and day to day. So that would be important for me as a long time over, you know, the periods of a goal for that place. If I find this and say, you know what, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm now 15 or 18 or whatever. That's what I want to do. You have to be flexible. So you have to be open to criticism, people telling you maybe you're not doing it correctly. And maybe there is another way. Maybe it's not the longest way that you've been taught, but there might be a shorter method. But again, like Sandy said, arriving at the same solution, no matter what, you know. So you have to be open. and connecting with the person and the people that you're around so it can work.
Yeah.
And I really believe and know in my heart of hearts that is what bringing humanity together will show and do. We will show these people that there's always an alternative to what you've been taught or been shown in the status quo mindset. That everything don't have to have that cookie cutter approach. There's always different paths and different ways to get to the same result, if not a better result than what you originally thought. Wouldn't you agree to that, Brian?
Yeah, there's always possibilities are infinite. It's a matter of understanding what a person's model of the world is, and dealing with that and showing them that there are other possibilities to consider outside of, their immediate and their initial model of the world. So there are certain businesses that have come up with processes that have worked for the last 150 years. Coca-Cola tried to change its formula a couple of times.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Rounded booze. But, and I'm not saying you tinker with everything. I'm just saying that, you have to be willing to think outside of what you know, or at least be open to possibilities that could exist outside of what you know to be your world. It's not easy though, because we're very conditioned to listen and believe what we've been told by the people that we put trust into, by the sources of media that we believe to be true, by the mentors and people in our immediate orbit that we believe to be valid and real. And it's fascinating to watch, because we are very, very reluctant to consider anything outside of that. It takes a lot of courage for someone to say to themselves, maybe what I have been doing or have been told isn't working for me any longer. That's not easy for someone to come to grips with. I think we had talked about this, and Melinda, I think we may have, even Carla, I think we've mentioned about this, of, athletes who retire from professional sports or high level, or even a military personnel coming out of the military. Their identities are so tied to what they do for so long that taking on a new identity is perhaps the most frightening thing that they would ever have to confront. And for most people, that's not even a consideration. But I imagine growing up believing that you are a certain way and you've been told you are a certain way, and then you reach a certain age and that identity no longer fits, and you have to create something new. That's frightening.
Well, human beings don't like change, Brian. They're much more comfortable, doing and knowing what they know. And change is something that's very scary. A lot of people sort of draw a line in the sand and they stay behind that line because it's there.
Yeah.
But then there are people like me, I get bored with the same old thing. I like new things and different things, and I like to learn new ways of doing things and new things, because otherwise I get too bored. It just, I guess, again, it depends on your mindset and the way you think about things. But in general, when change is in the air in an organization, rumors start to abound. And if those rumors aren't addressed, you're going to have a lot of problems, because change is the event. The transition process is the important part of having that change actually happen. And you have to get people on board. You've got to give them compelling reasons why this change is going to be advantageous to them and why they're going to like it. And you have to give them an ample amount of time so that they can learn whatever this new procedure is or process is, or so on and so forth, and give them the support necessary so that they can get on board with it. Because if you don't do that, that change isn't going to happen. And again, if you have a discussion about it, then, let them have input. Because if it's a more collaborative approach, they'll be much more likely to buy into it than if it's just strictly imposed on them. Here's what we're doing. You have to do it this way from now on. And blah. I'm sorry. That's not comfortable for anybody. And it's just a matter of, again, if you're in a leadership position, you've got to lead appropriately. And that's not a good way to lead, because it's just not going to be successful and it's not going to be comfortable for anybody. And in this day and age, with all the technology and everything, and artificial intelligence and all the stuff that's going on, change is the new norm. And so human beings have to learn to embrace this, because it's just something that's going on now. And whether we like it or not, most things don't stay the same. They just don't. It's not the way the world is anymore. And so you have to be open to new things. And it can be fun. It can be interesting. It can be exciting. And anyway, it's good for your brain, because if you're a robot your whole life, it's not healthy for your brain. Your brain is designed to create new neurons as long as you're alive, but only if you open new neural pathways by doing things in different ways and in new ways and learning new things. And if you do that, you'll have a healthy brain. Otherwise, you won't. So, it's another reason for learning new things. I mean, when I started my business, I'd never been in business before. I'd always worked for someone, Chris. So although I kind of did my own thing as a hygienist because I provided my hygiene services, I still had a boss that I had to, account to in a way. But to start a business, especially when you're on your own, there's all kinds of things you got to learn. There just isn't a choice. And it's a very steep learning curve for somebody who's never been involved in any of that before. And, I talked to people who had experience. I networked with a lot of different people. And I learned a lot of things and met a lot of very terrific people. And, it's been a very steep learning curve. But again, especially for an old person like me, it's good for my brain, because I had to learn things. I had to learn WordPress. I had to learn PowerPoint. I had to learn how to use a learning management system. I had to learn Excel. I had to learn Word better. I just had to be more comfortable with a computer altogether. I had to learn how to use a cell phone. The kinds of things that you have to learn how to do, because when you're in business and you're out and about, you need those things. And technology is expected today. Like when I started doing workshops, you guys are going to laugh. I used overheads, those transparencies that you put on an overhead projector. So the first law firm that I did that to, at the end, the HR manager came over to me. I mean, they had one of those machines that she said, you're going to have to learn how to use PowerPoint. And I looked at her and I went, what's that? I didn't even know what it was. So, she said, well, it's, with the technology, it's something that you can do with your computer. I went, okay. So then I went home, and of course, my son, who's very computer techie, Mark said, well, it's just fine. Open up the program. It's already on your computer. So, of course, it opens up and, up comes a little box that says, pick a template. So I look at this box and I go, pick a template. I don't even know what a template is. And if I picked one, what would I do with it? So in the end, I had one of my daughter's friends who was very good with PowerPoint come to my house and teach me how to use it. It's not that hard if you know what to do. It is a fiddly program. But nonetheless, once you know what to do with it, it's not that big a deal. But I had to learn it. I mean, I just didn't have a choice, because that's what the expectation is today. If you are giving a presentation, particularly to a group, whether it's a webinar or whether it's live, the expectation is that you use PowerPoint. I mean, it's just an expectation. They expect to see PowerPoint slides up there. So if you don't do it, you look out of step. You look old-fashioned. You look like you're not with it. So, well, that's right. And so you don't have a choice. You have to learn these things, and it's good. And I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad that I've learned a lot of the things. My kids think it's very amusing, because I've really learned a lot about the back end of WordPress, Chris. And that's why I'm suggesting that it might be a good thing for us, because there's lots of options back there. And a lot of the things that you want to do are on the back end of WordPress. And it's not that hard to learn how to use. It's pretty straightforward. So, when I had it transferred on, I used a local person, not Nathaniel, because he's on Vancouver Island, so he's not here. So I used somebody local, and I paid her to come to my house and show me how to use the back end. Every once in a while, something weird happens because it's technology, and if it does, I just send it to Nathaniel and go, I have no idea what this is. Fix it and send me a bill. So, you know, I've learned to do a lot of things on the back end. I mean, I even added a page and I figured out how to put it under the right category in my workshop stuff.
Wow.
And I save, I do a lot of blogging, so I save them on the back end. And so I've got a whole lot of blogs saved there. And then whenever I want to publish one, I just go into the back end of WordPress and I pull up one that I want to publish, and I pull it up and I, you know, adjust it and highlight things and move little things around and whatever. And then you just hit publish and it comes up on my blog page. So, you know, there's lots of things that you can learn how to do if you put your mind to it. And it's not that hard, but you have to be open to do those kind of things. And a lot of people aren't. They're just so, you know, stuck, you know, and rigid and whatever. I'm sorry. In this day and age, we can't be like that. We just can't. And we need to encourage people to think outside the box, because it can be very helpful. And let them run with the ball. Again, you know, yes, give them a task, but let them do it their way. Who cares? I mean, I don't know why people care so much that they do it, you know, step this way instead. Like, who cares? If they want to know some of the steps, then yeah, you can share it. But basically, let them do their own thing. Why do we care how they go from A to B? As long as they get it done and they do it nicely, I don't care how they get there. I've never cared how they get there. Doesn't matter to me at all. Let them do it their way. Might even be a better way than your way anyway. So, you know, like, why do you want to get involved in it? Besides, you have delegated that off to somebody else. So let it go. They're doing it. Walk away.
Right.
Well, exactly, Brian. And they should get credit. You know, if they do something in a new way, maybe they should share it with other people, because maybe it's a better way to do it. But it's just,
well,
you know.
Well, expand on that, Brian.
Well, my sense is people don't want other people to do it their own way because they want to take credit for what's being done. I mean, they get put in a position of management or leadership. You know, they want to look good just as much as the employee does.
But if someone does a good job, they still look good.
Yeah. I mean, but very often it's not seen that way. I mean, not everybody looks at their coworkers or their managers or the people that they're managing the same way. Some people consider them threat. I mean, you know, you're assuming everyone looks at everyone equally, and they don't. I mean, there's, you know, lots of different ideals and different background contexts that get brought into the workplace. You know, yeah, I mean, if you're in work, I mean, the easiest way to get promoted is to make your boss look good. But most of the time in conversations that I have with people spend more of their time trying to tear their manager down and how awful they are, as opposed to making them look good.
And Brian was on a roll there, and there he comes. You're on a roll there, brother.
Push the wrong button.
I didn't touch anything.
You disappeared, right?
Yeah, my computer all of a sudden said I was gone, and now I'm back. So I don't know.
That's a computer. What do you expect?
Yeah, who knows? Look,
Computer was trying to make you look bad.
Yeah. It's how you want to contextualize it, Chris. I mean, managers want credit just as much as employees do. Sometimes they want more credit. You know, it depends on what their aspirations are. Maybe they're a regional director and they want to be even higher, or they're a GM and they want to move to a regional position or a nationwide position. I mean, you know, we assume that they're happy where they are,
right,
and so forth. But create it in such a way that works.
So let me ask you this then, Brian, because this is something we want to move forward on each of our conversation calls, is that call to action. So when it comes to the call to action of, do people really want to lead or just like the idea of leading, what would be the call to action for everyone who's been watching today, or to people who have been on the call? What would that be call to action to be from this conversation?
Well, depending on where you are and what you're doing, all the action is, take massive action. Like, we can sit and we can manifest and think about all the wonderful things that we want, but unless you actually get up and do something or make a commit to doing and taking action, things don't happen. Don't be a Goya. Get off your ass, go do something. And then you have to be willing to take a risk sometimes to take that action. It's safe not to, in many ways. Right. It's safe to stay where I am. I don't have to make a decision. I don't have to make a choice. Everything's great. I don't have to worry about it. But imagine, wanting to get from another level or level up. That's going to require you to actually take action to do that. Maybe that's hiring a coach. Maybe that is, going back to school, learning a new trade, taking on more responsibility, even though you're not sure you're ready for it. Step out to do something and take action and see what happens. So whatever you're doing.
I'll entirely encourage each and every single one of you and the people who have been watching today or watching this on the replay. When we come back next week, and we'll be talking a little bit about this, about do people really want to lead or just like the idea of leading? We want to hear what the call to action that you did for the past week. How did you do the things and how did it occur to you and how did you make that happen and have that call to action? Because we want to take this into a deeper dive just for a little bit to keep the conversation going, because we want to hear from you, from the heartbeat of humanity. So, Brian, thank you again for leading our call again today. As always, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I love the insight. And thank you, Melinda, Carla, Sandy, and of course, Tyson, who's no longer here. But Tyson, thank you for being on the call too this day. I greatly appreciate you guys. So, Carla, Sandy, and Melinda, if you can stay on just for a couple of minutes, I got a couple of things I want to throw out to you. And Brian, we'll be talking tomorrow. And everyone have a wonderful Wednesday. Make it your day. And we'll see you on the next Conversation for Humanity.